Call the work session for the May 9th board meeting to order. First thing we do is the pledge, led tonight by Board Member Jim.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, does anybody have any questions on the agenda? Anybody got any on the consent agenda? Okay. Spotlight tomorrow night, recognition tomorrow night. Student discipline appeal.
Student discipline appeal. The board has been requested to review the April 11, 2019 decision of the Disciplinary Hearing Authority to oppose the decision to remand a student to an alternative school. The student was remanded for sexual misconduct. This review is pursuant to provision policy 6.317. The board shall either review the record or grant a second hearing. If the board chooses to review the record, it shall 1, affirm the decision of the hearing authority, or 2, modify the decision to a lesser penalty, or 3, grant a hearing before the board. If the board chooses to grant a hearing will be scheduled at a later date at which the board may 1, affirm the decision of the hearing authority, or 2, modify the decision in any matter, or 3, impose more severe penalty than that of the hearing authority.
Okay. Let's go ahead to alternative transportation solutions.
Number 10, ALC and Rutherford County Schools Alternative Transportation Solutions Agreement Contract, found in tab 2. The Atlas program would like to contract with ALC to provide a short-term emergency option for very difficult transportation situation for the McKinney-Vento Atlas students. ALC is a national student transportation solution company that uses a combination of SUVs, minivans, wheelchair-accessible vans, and sedans to supplement the district's existing transportation programs. Whether assisting districts with their McKinney-Vento program, their hardest-to-serve trips, or their special needs students, ALC provides a scalable solution that can expand or contract to accommodate this ever-changing population. Would you like to speak on that, Ms. Snell? If you'd come on up and kind of give us an overview of everything.
This would only be used, like the little blurb said, in emergency situations. For example, right now we have a student in one of our high schools who's at the Oasis Center in Nashville, the youth shelter, and Metro Nashville Schools has a contract with ALC. So what we're doing right now is we're splitting the cost with Metro Nashville through their contract with ALC to provide transportation for him to come to our high school here in Rutherford County. This rarely comes up, and this would only be in those emergency situations. An issue that came up is Oasis wanted to move him to the Baptist Children's Home in Brentwood. Williamson County doesn't have a contract with ALC, and we don't have a contract with ALC. So what we've done is we've worked with the high school and the Oasis Center to make sure that he can stay at the Oasis Center until the day that he's finished. His teachers are going to give him his exams a few days early, and he'll be finished a few days before others in that school, so that he's not too long at the Oasis Center, because they're not really an extended time shelter. They have a limited time period, but then he'll be moving to the Baptist Children's Home. And so just situations like that are when we might need some extended contract. This is, or some emergency contract. This does not obligate us to use ALC's services. It allows us to use them when we need to.
Would you mind for our new board members kind of giving the parameters of the McKinney-Vento Act?
Sure. McKinney-Vento Homeless Assistance Act was written in 1987 and reauthorized in 2001 under No Child Left Behind, and then again in 2015 under the Every Student Succeeds Act. And it governs homeless education in the United States. It's a federal law, and it requires us to provide certain rights to children experiencing homelessness, and the definition of homeless under McKinney-Vento is children who lack a fixed, regular, and adequate nighttime residence. They can be sharing the housing of others due to a loss of housing, financial hardship, or a similar reason. They can be living in motels, campgrounds, shelters, of course, places not designed for people to live, all of those kinds of situations. And one of the rights under McKinney-Vento is for children to be able to stay in their school of origin until the end of the school year in which they obtain permanent housing or through the duration of their homelessness. And that's where the transportation piece comes in so strongly. We've identified more than 1,200 students in Rutherford County schools for the Atlas program each of the last 3 years. And we're right at 1,200 right now for this year as well. So they're in every one of our schools. This year there's one school that doesn't have one, and that's Campus School. But all of our other schools do have Atlas students. So they're not just clustered in certain locations. They're not, they're everywhere. And I like to think of them as a school. I mean, that's the size of a school, 1,200 students. And it's pre-K through 12th grade. And we're required to provide services to support the identification, enrollment, attendance, and academic success of children experiencing homelessness.
Any questions for Ms. Snell?
No, thank you for that information. I'm pretty sure that the general public doesn't know that we offer that service.
I'm very active in the community with homeless agencies that provide services to homeless families, and they know. I try to make presentations everywhere that I can and talk about it. I talk to a lot of MTSU classes. I've talked to a lot of agencies and organizations in the community. I'm on the United Way board, the board of the Child Advocacy Center. So I do try to increase awareness. That's part of my job, is to raise that awareness of homelessness in the community.
I personally would like to thank you. I know I've worked and I've known you for a while and what you do, and I do appreciate what you do for those students.
Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you. All right, number 11.
All right, number 11, Blackman High School CTE program with Redstone Federal Credit Union, found on tab 3. Blackman High School would like to do a CTE program with Redstone Federal Credit Union for the operation of a limited Redstone Federal Credit Union branch in the school to be operated by students under the supervision of school personnel and Redstone Federal Credit Union officials. Redstone will pay all costs to furnish and equip and construct the branch. Any construction within the school will require the approval of the Assistant Superintendent for Engineering and Construction. The only people who will be allowed to use the student branch would be the students and school employees at Blackman High School. The branch will be in operation for a limited number of hours around noon during the normal school days. Students selected for the program will receive practical instruction regarding the operations of a financial institution. Students will also be eligible for possible employment with Redstone Federal Credit Union outside of the normal school hours. Students will not be paid any wages while working in the branch at the school, but will receive school credit and graded on their performance. Board Attorney Jeff Reed has been working with Redstone Federal Credit Union, and an agreement has been reached in acceptable legal form under which Redstone Federal Credit Union will be responsible for any liabilities arising in regard to the transactions handled through the branch. A copy of the agreement is attached. The term of the agreement is for 3 years, but thereafter will be terminated by either party upon proper notice as provided in the agreement.
Okay, anybody got any questions? If so, we've got Mr. Reed, Dr. Justice, and I believe some Redstone people here that would answer any questions you have.
Mr. Chairman, the only question I have is a follow-up question with Mr. Reed. I had asked him before if there was a non-compete clause in that agreement.
No, this does not have a non-compete clause in it, so it's not an exclusive arrangement. I will say, this came back before the board a few months ago, as you may remember. At that time, after that came before the board, we went back and reworked the agreement, just to make sure there's no liability on the school system with respect to operations occurring through the branch of the credit union. Those changes have been made now. Redstone's been good to make those changes. And from a legal standpoint, if the board wants to do this deal, it's an acceptable form now for the board to do. It's a 3-year term. So once we do this, we'll be in the deal for 3 years, but thereafter, if for some reason it's not working, either party can terminate it by giving notice to the other party.
Anyone else? Thank you, Mr. Reed. Okay. All right, let's move on to number 12.
All right, number 12, Financial Matters, Cafeteria Fund 143, Cash Banks for 2019-20 school year. The centralized Cafeteria Fund 143, Petty Cash, cash in hand, amounts for each school nutrition location is currently approved for $12,000 for the sole purpose of making change. An additional $100 is needed in the 2019-20 school year for the new Rocky Fork Elementary cafeteria, and an additional $1,000 is needed in the 2019-20 school year for the new Rockville High School cafeteria, increasing the total petty cash in hand to the amount of $13,100.
Any questions? Okay, next are the policies that we need to look over. In your spare time, I guess. Okay, number 14, facilities list.
Facilities used approved for exemption pursuant to Board Policy 3.206, public education schools, institutions, post-secondary education institutions, private universities and colleges, governmental entities or agencies that provide benefits to the Rutherford County school system or have an in-kind relationship approved by the director of school may request the Board of Education to allow an exemption from the use of facility fee, which the board may allow or deny based upon the details of the specific requests. The following groups qualify for the exemption: the Nicholas Foundation, free basketball camp at Central Magnet School. Not only will they be providing a free basketball camp, but they'll be feeding them breakfast and lunch also for the students there.
Any questions? Okay. Facilities. Doesn't look like there's anything there. Insurance update.
Our next meeting is in 2 weeks, so we'll have some updates at that time.
Thank you. Director's update.
A couple of things. First of all, I had a great time the last day and a half with Mr. Sandbig over at Wilson County Board of Education as we was going through the financial fiscal year, I guess, review. There's some things that are going to be coming up pretty soon, this next year with our report card, where the district per pupil expenditure will be made available, and also the school per pupil expenditure. And there is a variety of different things that go in place. And it not only, it's not only our state and local, but also federal, how much we're spending per pupil. Now, there's a lot of things there. I think the intent is for obviously, number one, transparency. That's what they tell us, for transparency. But also, how effective are we as educators in these institutions as we're providing dollar for dollar, if you will. So there will be a lot of scrutiny coming up, and one of the things that we'll be doing, Mr. Sandbig and his staff will be doing here soon, getting ready. I think the sooner you can get it available, probably the better, so they can send back if there's anything that needs to be tweaked or whatever. But it's another one of those layers of responsibilities that probably the department didn't think that it's not that easy, is what I'm trying to say. It's not easy. It requires a lot, but we'll meet those challenges. The second thing I would like to do is this is National Nurse Week and National Teacher Week. I think we would all agree that we've got some of the greatest teachers in the state. You know, last night I had the opportunity to spend 2.5 hours in a award banquet at Central Magnet School, and some of the impact that these teachers had on some of these students was phenomenal. And you know, I think Dr. Ash said many times how much he was blessed to have a great faculty, but we're very blessed within our district to have some great teachers. And one of the things I firmly believe in teaching, it's not a job, it's a calling. And I think it's been, you know, there's been a lot of things that have been, you know, that I always tell the teachers, you don't always hear the good things, but the most important thing is that every day that you are in that classroom, you're making a difference in the life of a young person. And that's, as long as you keep that in mind, whatever else may come your way, we're always going to be behind you. And I think the board has done a great job. Another thing the state comptroller's office put out here recently, and I'll share it with you guys here in the next day or so, was over 2015-16 school year to the 2014-15 to 2016-17 school year, the salaries, how much had been increased on teacher salaries. And as I looked at Rutherford County, I mean, it was a good, you know, a good amount. And that speaks volumes of our Board of Education, how you understand how difficult job that they have. I know we could never pay them what they deserve, but I'm sure they would agree with you. You've always given them the opportunity to give them something, and that's, I appreciate. And our nurses, you know, the budget, the BEP formula funds nurses at 1 to 3,000. Obviously, in Rutherford County, it doesn't work that way, and we fund a lot more. And what would we do without our nurses? You know, a lot of times people think the nurse be the one that puts the Band-Aid on a scraped knee, or someone that, you know, maybe checks the temperature. It's far more involved than that now. So I do want to tip my hat to all the nurses out there.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Johnson, TLN.
I'll have something tomorrow night.
You know you're not keeping your legislators in line down there, bro.
Not my job. Thank goodness.
Ms. Hodge.
Nothing tonight.
Thank you, sir. General discussion?
Mr. Chairman, can we have an update on the teachers, the substitute teachers agency?
Yes, absolutely. Go ahead.
So we had our conference with Advantage, and we have our contract now signed. Mr. Estes signed that for us. And so they have switched their third-party vendor to use the same one that we currently have as eSchool, so the transition will be seamless, and we won't be having to do a lot of training. So they're going to send us next week flyers to post on our website to allow, you know, other people who are interested in subbing this coming year to have further information. So that's what we know at this time.
So they haven't sent anything out yet to tell the subs that we've changed?
No, I've sent that to PESG for them to be able to share that information, and then they know this next week we'll have flyers to hand out.
Anyone else?
Well, Anthony, some information had been brought to our attention that with the change in the subs, that going back to Advantage, that they were going to be required to go back through background testing, drug testing, whatever all of the testing requirements are. Is that correct?
That is correct. And then if they serve 10 days with the company, then they get reimbursed for the fingerprinting.
Okay, so how much are they having to pay up front to satisfy the testing requirements? To go
Typically, that's about $35, $33 to $35 range would be fingerprinting cost
Okay. But they're reimbursed that full amount if they work?
after 10 days of working.
Yeah, I noticed on our website that we've still got, when you go to substitute teachers, it's still got PESG on there, so.
Correct, because we'll need some more till the end of the year. We have the contract with them, and so
Okay.
we have positions that need to be filled to the end of the year, and then we will make that switch, right.
Makes sense, thank you.
And Advantage XP will pay for the drug testing,
Awesome.
so our subs won't face that.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Had a great night at Rockvale the other night. I thought our director and our staff did a great job, and that's part about it was I didn't have to do anything. Just sat there and listened to them, and I thought they did beautifully, and it was for Eagleville, of course, and Rockvale High, and elementary and middle school, and there's a lot of very obvious enthusiasm, and I thought our director, as I said, did a terrific job of hosting that, and Mr. Barlow and his staff at Rockvale Middle as well.
I think it was a big turnout, and I'll be honest with you, I'm always blessed to have the staff that I have. I think they did a great job. They provided a lot of information, and I know, Mr. Lee, I think the big topic was was the traffic. And I think you had them lined up speaking with you afterwards, but
We had suggestions of putting in a bridge like the bridge over Broad, starting at Dollar General and ending up at the subdivision past it. And I told them I'd love to build that bridge if they get TDOT to fund it. I didn't think the board, we're not in the road bridge business, but there is a lot of interest there. And I think most of the parents, the information we gave them, they saw that we are making an honest effort and doing all that we can.
Anyone else?
Mr. Spurlock, I don't know if you intend to, we've not discussed it, do this again next year. I think it's
absolutely.
I think it's great idea, getting the parents involved and
it was my idea, but I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. Mr. Evans logistically had everything worked down to the T. We actually, I think at the end of the first semester, you brought me a list of all the questions that we didn't answer. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And we went over those, and he's constantly, like I said, he brings me some way, how can we do it better? How can we do it more effectively? So once again, I rely on my staff, and they do a tremendous job.
I think it's a great service to the community. Then the parents can see us, not behind the boardroom and things like that. So I'm happy that you're going to continue doing that, and we'll just have another full calendar next year.
And I want to give props to Mr. Everett. I know he's not here, but I sent y'all the email. Those are the kind of things that we're looking to do. We want to partner with our parents. And I know sometimes, we're not always going to be right. I mean, I'm not naive to know that. Sometimes we can make mistakes. Sometimes we can make mistakes. But it's always good when we can partner with our parents and provide the support that we need, because we can't do it all ourselves, and we depend on our parents. So I appreciate Mr. Everett for his, for what he did.
I think Mr. Evans got everything covered except his 3-minute rule, Mr.
I'm working on Mr. Luker for next year. He was a little over.
All right. Anything else? All right, we're adjourned.